and welcome to today's performance, presented by the Department of Music. At this time, please silence all cell phones and electronic devices. Please note that flash photography and video recording are not permitted during the performance. We welcome guests of all ages to our concert. If you are attending with young children and they need a break, please feel free to step into the lobby and return when ready. Your consideration helps ensure an enjoyable experience for everyone. Thank you and enjoy the performance.
Welcome, good afternoon everyone. We're here with Mr. Lance Bendiksen. I'm just going to read Mr. Bendiksen's bio, and then Mr. Bendiksen is going to start with some backpack to briefcase material. How about that? Mr. Bendiksen is a songwriter, composer, and producer, and now a new partner in an East Coast publishing company. He works in the music, film, and TV industries, and his partners also work in the video game business, as well as the live classical pops and classical music world. Mr. Bendiksen's studio experience spans from London to LA, from New York to Nashville. In addition, many satellite markets and studios ranging from Northern Cali, that's California for you guys, and Skywalker Ranch to Sony Studios and studios in Austin, Tempe, Portland, to a full range of home recording setups and hybrid recording facilities. In music, Lance and his team have created and produced music for RCA, Arista, Epic, and Sony Records. On the film side, his company, Bendiksen Productions, has worked with 3 Oscar winners, a Golden Globe winner, and done films with giants including Lionsgate, Saban, Capitol, Netflix, and HBO. In TV, his team has created and produced music for CBS, NBC, ABC, and PBS, and many additional companies. His core team have won awards from an Emmy to Grammys, an Oscar to a Golden Globe. And on the music side, his network of engineers and producers have a string of platinum records and many Grammys and nominations. In a career that spans 5 decades, Mr. Bendiksen has composed and written over 3,000 songs and compositions and had over 200 published. He credits education, diligence, and personal relationships for his ongoing successes. He has joined us over the last few days in courses including audio production, sound and music technology, form and analysis, production and sound for digital filmmaking, jazz methods, private audio lessons, and jazz ensemble. He also attended the saxophone studio recital last night, and now this professional workshop. Please, let's welcome Mr. Lance Bendiksen.
So I put together a little list of things because we got to move pretty fast today. I'd like to focus on the music business during this lecture. First of all, there is a ton of supply, not a ton of supply, I've got that backwards, dyslexia strikes again. There is not a lot of supply, there's not a lot of demand, and there's too much supply. I finally got it right. Okay, so, having said that, all right, supply and demand is out of whack. Right? So there's a lot of competition, not a lot of jobs. However, you guys are at this university, it's a great university. Give yourself a hand for that. Great teachers, great curriculum. You have the ability to be absolutely fantastic at what you do. All right? So then we're going to get into how we focus on the opportunity side. Okay? This comes into, I believe it's Richard's quote, briefcases. So I think what I like to do is make sure you guys understand how much opportunity is actually out there, okay? But what you need, once you have your skill sets, okay? Because your skill sets are going to be developed here. And what an opportunity that is, all right, to have these professors be able to do that. So, I'm going to start with some of the tips. I'm going to move really fast because I'm going to get to Q&A as well today. Communication, then I'll add one more, communication. Communication is essential because we're in a business where, you know, you might have a job for a month, you might have a job for 2 weeks, you might need, in my career in 50 years, you might need 300 jobs, okay? To network to 300 jobs, the amount of communication that it's gonna take is gonna be a lot, okay? So with communication, let's move to some of the areas that I think post-pandemic, I mean, how many people really had it easy during the pandemic? Raise your hands. Anybody? You did. I want to know your secret. Yeah, there you go. What I find is it changed the planet, and people that used to have more interpersonal connection and communications, we all kind of withdrew into like text messages, social media, emails. I find less and less people even picking up the phone and answering the phone to talk about a job. Everything goes back and forth. So what takes me an hour and a half to write an email, I can tell somebody in 30 seconds to a minute. So at my job, where I have to produce a lot of music for film and television on a weekly basis to make a living, let alone all the people that work with me, and some that I'm blessed to work for me, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to write 30 emails a day. And the thing about it is, if you are so blessed that you can call somebody who's doing a film for Angelina Jolie, like I called them yesterday because they're considering us on a job, I may never have got to that place with that producer had I not developed a relationship. And we don't have the time in the music and film business as you're developing your network, especially when you come out of high school or college, and okay, now you're going to make a living, all right? So my feeling is, my suggestion, my advice is whatever you can do in person. First of all, if you can go to somebody's office or studio or go on location, whatever it is, if you can meet with them first in person, do that. Okay? It'll make a difference. Developing that relationship is going to come back tenfold. After that, if you can't meet with them in person, pick up the phone. It's amazing. I talked to 2 Oscar winners last week that actually took my call, and I was so relieved because I probably talked to 30 other people that didn't. I just got a message machine. All right? So 2 Oscar winners picked up the phone and said, "Hey, how you doing, Lance?" So meet with them first in person, if you can, even if you have to fly to their location, all right? Second, call them on the phone, okay? Don't be afraid to call them on the phone. Third is email. Moving down the list, text messages. Moving down the list, social media. Okay? Make sense? Now, as far as jobs go, for those of you who might be seniors, I'm a huge fan of, I'm going to go to the bottom of this list here, mentors. I had a mentor in college. You have built-in mentors here. I love that. Wonderful professors. My mentor now, I think I might have told a few of you that, about Gerald. My mentor now in the film business is Gerald Mullen. And Gerald Mullen, I'm going to tell you a little story, but Gerald Mullen produced for Steven Spielberg from Rain Man through Jurassic Park, okay? So if I have a film question, I call Gerald. He picks up the phone, he answers the phone. Woo-hoo, right? So Schindler's List, Oscars, all that stuff, Spielberg, top of the business. We are not that far away from the top of the business at any point in time. Now I'm going to tell you a little story about Gerald. This is fun. I really like this story. I guess I'm supposed to stay on camera, right? All right, I'll just try. I like walking around. So Gerald was from the Midwest, and he went to LA because he really wanted a job. Okay, He wanted to work. He couldn't work in the Midwest. He didn't really have skills, right? He didn't come out of a college or university like this, like you all. He went to LA. Thought LA would be cool. I like movies. And he had some silly jobs. I don't know, one was like roofing, one was washing dishes. He got a job as a driver, right? So he started by just driving pretty much anybody in the company wanted to drive. And eventually, he started picking up actors at the airport in LA. And one day, he was asked to pick up Steven Spielberg. So he picked up Steven Spielberg, and they got to talking on the drive from one set to another set. And Steven liked him. And during all these drives over a couple of years, he started learning production. He started learning the film business because Steven was always talking about the movies he was on. And one day, Steven said, "Hey, Gerald, I would like you to be my producer." So he went from being a dishwasher, I hope I got that right, but a bunch of odd jobs, to driving, to now he's Steven Spielberg's producer. And now he's producing Rain Man, right? All the way to Jurassic Park. So to me, that translates into opportunities. I had one question. He's here, I think. How much is luck? You know, how much does luck play a part in the industry, in film and music? And my personal belief is you kind of make your own luck for the most part. Okay, there are times when you get lucky, but I think you put yourself, by putting yourself out there, and when I say out there, I think in the last class we also talked about it's a global world, you know, so sure, might be able to get a gig here or a job here in my region, and drive to that job, but what made the difference in my career is when I started venturing out. So at the time I landed in Denver from the East Coast, and I realized Denver, you know, they're really not, I mean, I'm working, but they're not taking to me too well. So I started saying, I'm gonna find a way to get to New York. Found a way to get to New York, met as many people as I could meet, found a way to get to LA, to Nashville, and I didn't really have the money to do it. It was very hard to do that, but I went into the studio system. Met as many people as I could. I asked questions. And I started, as many of you know from the last couple of days, I started as a super shy person. I couldn't even say hello to a girl. I was terrified. Now, I can't believe I'm even talking to you all. But no, I went into all those markets, and what happened was suddenly, because I was going to New York, I was going to LA, and I was starting to think things were starting to happen. All of a sudden, Denver's own. I'd be at a TV station, Denver's own. I'm like, I'm not from here. But what I'm saying is it's a global market. So whatever your skill set is, whatever you want to do, you can do whatever you want to do, but whatever that is, it's available. It might be available in Taiwan. It could be San Francisco. It could be Santa Fe. It could be Roswell. It could be anywhere. So think of it that way, and then remember the communications piece. Now, a couple of things about that. Jobs, okay, yeah, many of you will get jobs right away out of this university. Some of you may not, right? I didn't right away. Internships. I think I brought up Alfredo Rodriguez, who was a student in one of my workshops that we did at San Juan College. And in a 1.5-year span, he went from being an intern, he went from being a student at a workshop to being an intern for the film industry through a nonprofit in Santa Fe called Stagecoach. Any of you who might be interested in the film business, Stagecoach is George R.R. Martin's nonprofit end. And they help people to get into the film business, to entree them into the film business. Now, I talk about my dinner with George R.R. Martin, which was very unique. I'll just leave it at that. But remember Stagecoach, okay? Let's talk about Alfredo. So Alfredo went from, now I'm an intern in the film business, and he would volunteer for any film, for anything. Or he went from that to all of a a sudden, after doing that for about 6 months to a year, he's now working on a movie with Matthew McConaughey called The Lost Bus, which I think they're pitching now. Is that right? Are they pitching that now? Anybody? Okay. Well, he went from that to, anybody see Dark Winds? Know the show Dark Winds? All right, a few. So now he's the assistant to Chris Iyer, who's a wonderful director, like a big-time director, who lives in Santa Fe. So Alfredo, in 1.5 years, went from a workshop to working with Chris Iyer. So, love it, right? Internship, mentor, job. You can go find a mentor in whatever you're doing. One thing I've noticed about successful people want to help. It's not all of them. I mean, you run into some real characters. But for the most part, the real famous people, I told the story about Tom Hanks. One of my friends was working with Tom Hanks, right? He's doing a movie here. Her refrigerator broke, right? Tom Hanks found out about it. That day when she went home from the film, she's a makeup artist, he bought a brand new refrigerator for her, okay? Put it in her house, did it all on the QT, okay? Very cool. So find a mentor. Job's the obvious thing, go get a job, right? Mentor, fabulous. Internship, fabulous. Volunteer, fabulous. Especially coming out of this school, like this university that you're coming out of with the skill set you have, right? Okay. Couple of things. I don't know if anybody is late. Anybody have the habit of being late? Raise your hand. Anybody? No, shy people. What? Nobody? All right, we had a few honest people out there. My wife has been late her whole life, right? Friends might say, why don't you just lie to her? Tell her, just give her a false time so she's on time. Tried it, didn't work. So I'll tell you, in the music business, I had a residency, and I was doing shows. These people owned a whole bunch of restaurant bars. I was 20, 21 maybe, and I needed the money. I needed the whole string of jobs. I needed that work because it was regular work, and it's hard when you're a musician trying to make it, right? So I was late once, and that was it. Gone. So what paid my bills was suddenly gone, and I was never late after that. So you've heard the term or the cliche, early bird gets the worm. I think the early bird gets the breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, the whole kit and caboodle, honestly. So I'm a big fan. To me, the only way to be on time all the time is to be early. So I just look at it as like, if you never want to be late, just be early, and then you'll never be late again. Okay? It's not my pet peeve unless somebody's working for me. If somebody's working for me, I know that the people that I work for are going to fire me from whatever film or music project I'm on. So right away, if I'll tell somebody, look, you really got to be on time. Preferably early, but I'm a pretty gracious guy, but they get a couple of warnings and that's it, because my whole staff and everybody I work with are going to be relying on that big film company or that big Sony Music or whoever we're working on to be on time and to deliver the goods. Okay, so these are what I call checking boxes, and in every single profession. And this is part of being old, okay? You've worked with so many different areas and so many people. After a while, you realize that there's just boxes to check. And so you look at it like we're working on a film now. There's an Oscar winner. There's a great cinematographer. There's a lot of really good people on it. But I know what all their jobs are, and I know that if I understand all their jobs and I understand my job, and I check all those boxes, I know that as talented as these people are and as smart as they are, we're going to hit it out of the park, okay? So, next thing is presentation. presentation to me is, okay, now, I can be a little chill here, and I have a story. I don't know if we'll have enough time for it, but 2 minutes. Oh God, it's a good story. Oh well, real fast. You know, maybe you don't want to have, hairs coming out of your nose, hanging down your face. Maybe you don't want mud all over your clothes or your shoes, blowing a flat tire. If you're doing an interview with somebody, or you're working with the people you're going to be working with, whatever your look is. Now we can be in LA. We can look pretty wild. I don't really, I don't have Richard's good looks, so I don't know how wild I can get with clothing. But the bottom line is, you know what people are going to respect and what they aren't going to respect. You can have brand. Like, look at her hair. Oh my God, I would kill for that hair. Does she have great hair? Give her applause. So be yourself, right? Be yourself, but just understand presentation has to be there. Another thing, if I'm going to run out of time, confidence, okay? For all you sax players, you have to blow at least hard enough so you don't squeak. So if you're shy playing the saxophone, because I'm so shy, you can squeak, right? So put the same thing into your body language, like people come to get a job with me, right? It's not as cool as, I'm confident. Not cocky, but I'm confident. Eye contact, when you're talking to people, look them in the eye, all right? Here's another thing. Ask them questions, especially if it's somebody big and important and you're scared. It's amazing. A couple questions, you own them. Ask them some questions about, hey, where are you from? Anything. Figure out how's the weather, whatever. Ask them a question. And then, this is key. Okay, we have one mouth, we have 2 ears. Right? There's a reason for that. After you ask the question, then you listen. And if they start talking in an interview and you're listening, you're in good shape. Okay? Whoa, I'm out of time.
Now, speaking of questions, I asked some upper division music ed students for some questions for Mr. Bendiksen in preparation of today. So we're going to go around and I will portray, and I know I'm dating myself, Phil Donahue, and go around the audience real quick and ask those students to ask those questions.
Are you going to run like that?
I'll try my best.
Richard Swartz, running.
The first question is from Edwin. He's a music education major.
As a music education major, what can you share with me about helping me land the job and furthering my career?
Okay, so what we've been just talking about, I think that's kind of it. I mean, I think it's, you got to network. It's about networking. It's about being interested in the people that you're interested in working with. I'm going to make it short so we can get through them. Okay? All right. So I think all of these things means most of the time when I talk and do lectures or workshops, there's hours. And I know I don't have hours here, so I'm kind of trying to ramble through it. But I think that the personal stuff is really important. The communication. Really, all the reason I wrote this stuff down, my wife is an artist, so forgive me for my bad art. But no, it's all of those things, and then think globally. Go wherever you need to go to for what you want and realize that you can do anything you want to do, especially with the skill sets you're getting out of this university. I mean, it's awesome. Okay?
Thank you. Our next question is from Roman, music education major.
Yes. Do you have any tips on quieting performance anxiety and just dealing with, I guess, high stress situations in general?
Okay, good one. Well, I mean, what I started doing, I did today, because I used to have that performance anxiety, and I was on a tour, and it was my first big theater tour, and I realized if I could get into the theater ahead of time, which I did today, I'm kind of shy and a little nervous. You know, I came in and hung out here, you know, and whatever venue I played, and I played venues from, you know, every dive bar all the way up to the Kennedy Center, Carnegie Hall, and some pretty prestigious places. You know, performance anxiety is an ongoing thing for most of us. So I like to get into the venue early. For all you musicians, you know, and this, what we talk about with interviews is up here, but, you know, always talk to yourself about it and tell yourself, you know, I'm not going there. I'm going to get this out of my system now, right? Story, real fast. I showed up late one time for a show. It was at the Egg in Albany, New York, and I didn't have that time to come out on the stage. The audience was right here, right? And it was a lot of people right here. And the grand piano was back here, right? And the roadies did not latch down the grand piano. And as I was playing, I started going towards the people, sliding, and I'm thinking about this 9-foot grand piano. I'm gonna fall on this dude right here, and there's about 60 people right there in the pit. That's not performance anxiety, but believe me, that was anxiety. Guys ran out, tapped it down. So, you know, it's a regular thing, but I think the best thing you can do is prepare. Like whatever you're doing, you know, a lot of notes on what you're gonna do, go through it, a lot of dry runs, show up early, you know, sound reinforcement. What career are you talking about in particular?
Just like performing in crowds in general, just I guess in different situations.
Okay. My wife is terrified of public speaking, and I still haven't gotten her through it. But I did face my fear of performance anxiety, and I think in general it's about facing fears and having a conversation with yourself, and then also preparation as much as you can do so that you're really prepared, because that gives you a sense of confidence. Okay?
And our next question is from Juan, also a music education major.
So I was just wondering, do you have any tips on like concert/performance etiquette? And is it like, what do you do to like interact with like crowds?
Whew, I could have like an hour on all of these. Also, cool hair. Another dude with cool hair, right? Now, I mean, at the club level, it's interacting. You know, like on your set breaks, going out and talking to people, not just your friends. I mean, I think that's a good thing. On the concert level, you know, I work with, you know, some of my colleagues work with U2, and I had one of my acts open up for U2, and I guess, I don't know, U2 might be looked at as an oldies band now, but still a big band. Concerts, all those famous singers, and then the singers and bands that I work with that are coming up, it's pretty important, your brand, first how you look, and how you relate to your audience. I think the most important thing I can probably share with you is being yourself, because if it's all an act, then it's pretty much bullshit, and audiences pick up on that stuff. So I worked with a Siobhan Labatt, and Siobhan was working with Eminem at the time, and she had done the image work for Eminem. And so she was really big on really getting the bands and the singers that we had on our roster to be themselves, but also be vulnerable to the audience. Like there's a guy from my generation, Lyle Lovett, who's a friend of ours. He's a pretty famous artist, and he's got a really interesting thing that he does with audiences. He's from Houston, so he has a Texas accent. He talks really soft, his Texas accent. And because he talks really soft, everybody listens, right? So now this doesn't work in a nightclub, right? But in a concert hall, like you all being so polite and listening, so his thing is he goes really slow. The man is great, by the way, but he talks just really slow, and it's really good, and it's talking about true things. And because he's talking about true things, everybody loves him. Me too, you know, I totally get it. So we work from the Springsteen tree. Everybody knows Bruce Springsteen, right? Even though he's old like me, you know, he's so authentic. I mean, he's just so authentic. He's dripping with who he is. And I love that about Bruce. You know, it's just, I think that's the best thing in performance world. Now, I'm a lot from the pop music field, you know, pop films, popular culture, music. So I can't give advice in a lot of other fields, but I think it translates to all fields: authenticity, uniqueness. Okay.
And our next question is from Samantha.
Hello. I was wondering, what is your favorite major musical experience?
That's a hard one when you're my age. 50 years, oh my God. Favorite music experience? Oh. I feel like I'm starting to get to know some of you people, by the way, because I've had some of you in other classes. Well, I think the one last night was pretty darn good. Listened to him play saxophone. I don't think I've heard 7 saxophones. I don't think I've ever heard that, even all the years going to concerts. That was delightful. There's so many. I mean, because there's so many artists that are so great that I don't know how I could possibly, give one person that credit or one act. But I will say that I can keep with the thread of authenticity. So when an act is really authentic and true and great, I love that so much more than anything that's copied, anything that has any kind of fake facade to it at all. Sorry I can't give you one experience.
And our next question is from Amani.
What is your sound check process?
Sound check. Number 1, do a sound check, not a line check. I hate line checks. And I think, what kind of musical group are we talking about here?
A combo,
Jazz combo. Sections, probably. Probably start sections. It's easy when you're not talking about crazy drummers. But no, sound checks. I used to have it in my contract when I was performing a lot. That we got long sound checks. So long sound checks, and it's. I guess there's little tips like if it's not your engineer who's mixing you, I used to bribe the engineers, and at the very least I'd make sure I was friends with them. I never gave them money, but if I was anywhere near, if they liked beer, well, for example, I used to work at Willie Nelson's studio, okay, and Willie he has a golf course surrounding his private studio, a 9-hole golf course. And he lost the clubhouse to the golf course to his road manager. So when you show up at Willie's studio, you give him a case of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer, and he gives you the key to the studio and a golf cart. So bribe him, get to know the sound man, because if the sound man's good and he pays attention, you get a lot of these sound guys. It amazes me. They set up a mix, and there's the board. Concert's starting or the show's starting, and they're off in the audience. They don't care. You know, you want to make sure that now you may not have that problem here because the school they're on it, right? They care. But out in the real world, boy oh boy, the sound man can really mess you up big time. So get long sound checks. To me, sectionally is for musically, how, if you have a large venue, how good are the monitors, right? Do a good thing, right? How's that?
And our next question is from Jimmy.
Okay, cool. Hi, what's up? So, how do you deal with creative burnout, or performance burnout, or career burnout? Any of the three, or anything not listed.
I like the introduction. Hey, what's up?
Come on.
Yeah, he's on it. He's cool. I like that. He's himself. Burnout. My advice there, and this, since I only have so much time to talk to you, my advice there is do what you want to do. You get burned out when you do a lot of stupid things to make money. So you have a chance in a university environment, and I think I talked about that a lot last couple of days. I didn't have this opportunity. My college was good at teaching you about life and business, but I didn't have this education that you have with music, which is so cool. But if you take a bunch of jobs that you don't want to do, it's not you, it's not what you desire to do. So no matter what your inspiration is, it might take a while to figure out exactly what you want to do, but eventually you're going to start to feel, okay, I feel like I want to do this. Then do that. And a question I ask a lot of my artists that I work with, and especially if they're like a young band or a young filmmaker, is if somebody gave you like $5 million, here's $5 million, you never have to worry about money again, what would you do? Then take a lot of time to think about what you would do, then do that without the money, because you can. You may not think you can, but you can. One of Gerald's lines, my producer colleague that's mentoring me in film, this thing was, my favorite thing about him is he always said, look, Lance, because I started producing films too of late, he said, make possible the impossible, because it is possible. Okay? So if you don't want to have burnout, don't do stupid jobs. Now you might have to pay the bills occasionally, you might have to take a gig. You don't want to know how many jobs I've had before I was a full-time artist. But I did a lot of that stuff from, God, my father had me on a pile of wood cleaning nails, in Hoboken, New Jersey, waking me up at 4:30 in the morning. Okay, clean the nails out of this wood, and when you're done, stupid jobs like that. You got to do some of that, but if you can set your sight on what you really want to do, and let that happen over time. Don't feel like you got to rush it. But look for the signals, and if you do know what you want to do, well then do that. And don't let money or environment or peer pressure or parents or anybody tell you you can't. Just do what you want to do. And if you work hard, you're not going to have career burnout. I'm 50 years into business and I'm still having fun. I'm having a blast, I met Maurice Jarre probably before your time, but there was a movie called Ghost. Does anybody remember that movie? One person? Okay, that's pretty good for two people, okay. Well, anyway, Maurice was, I think he was 89 years old and he was still scoring major films. I met him in Malibu. And he was an A-list composer. So just do what you like, what you want to do, and you're not going to get burned out. If you need to take some time off, take some time off, you're good. But yeah, there you go.
And our next question is from John.
Could you share with us a bit of history with the Clovis Norman Pet Recording Studio project, and what are you looking to accomplish with it?
Okay, does everybody know about that studio over in Clovis? Anybody heard about it? Buddy Holly was actually before my time, so that goes way back, way back. Does everybody know, or anybody know about Buddy Holly and what he did? Okay, cool. Well, that dude had 21 #1 hit songs in like 22 months or something like that out of Clovis, New Mexico. Woo! You gotta love it, right? So I think what they want to do is they want to bring back music to this region from a recording studio side. And how much time do I have?
At least 5 minutes.
Okay, so I was called from my engineer in Denver, the guy that works with U2. He said, Lance, you moved to New Mexico, you should go check out that studio where they made all those hits. So I did. I went down to Clovis, and I saw it, and I was like, "Whoa, this is cool." And I had to get into the studio, the old studio. I had to go through the Chamber of Commerce, and they had a museum there. Has anybody been to the museum in Clovis? They have a rock and roll museum. So I mean, it goes way back. So you got to be into the history of rock and roll, I guess you'd say. And I went into a back room they had there, and the whole room was full of incredible analog gear. Like each piece of gear nowadays would cost about $100,000, and they had a whole room full of it, a big room, and it all worked, right? So analog still sounds better than digital. Now the audience has gotten used to digital, but analog sounds better. So the long story short is they asked me, we'd like somebody to build a studio in this space. Now, I said, well, I don't build studios, but I know a guy who worked on a Sphere in Vegas. He designed Jazz at Lincoln Center. He works on the Hollywood Bowl. He's like a really good, he's kind of a pain in the ass, but he's a really good studio designer. So he designed this studio in Clovis, which we're finishing. I mean, it's a ways to go, but it's going to be done in a few months. And it's going to have all that really cool analog gear. And they're going to need people to come and record. They're going to need people to come and engineer. And I'm hoping, I don't know how much influence I'll have, but like for example, my orchestrator, right, is also Paul McCartney's horn director. And then I have a lot of people in the music industry I know really well. And they all, for whatever reason, they all want to, they're all excited still about Buddy Holly. So everybody that I know from London to LA to New York, they're all like interested in this studio. So my hope is, and I hope this happens, Richard, my hope is that that studio can be, it might take a little time, but can be like a center to the rest of the world in the music business. Once again, it's global, whatever you want, you can. Right now, it's easy, it's global, right? So we didn't get to anybody in the back. Is there anybody else has questions that aren't in
Do
this?
we want to take any questions? Does anybody have back here? You had a question? Yes.
Don't be shy.
I'm always shy.
I'm shy too.
That's kind of crazy. So, as a composer, how do you push your music out there, especially with people trying to turn towards more technologically based?
Ooh, I wish we had another hour for you. It's tough because sound design has taken over, and I think the reason for that, and sound design works, and that's the hard thing, sound design does work. The reason for that is you have younger directors, younger producers, and you know, my kids are your age, right? They grew up with computers. So where you didn't have the piano lessons and the guitar lessons and the vocal lessons and all that stuff that we had to do nonstop because it wasn't available. There was no internet or anything. So a lot of times you don't have there's a space for music still, okay? To actually get it into working with sound design comes down to these things. Okay, so it comes down to realizing that there's still music out there. I was up for Oppenheimer. I pitched myself to be one of the composers on that. Ludwig is much better known than me, so he got the gig. And he did a beautiful job. But there's still music in film. It really comes down to like student films. We talked about that in the last class. Do your student films, do your music. Get a reel together of your music, get clips of your student film, and then go meet people. And once again, mentors, internships, huge opportunity. Stagecoach. Stagecoach is great. it's once again, it's George Martin's nonprofit end. And George sold 90 million books and he wrote Game of Thrones. So he's richer than all rich, right? And he spread that wealth to anybody in New Mexico through this nonprofit. It's a great organization. And Liz, the director, will probably be really mad at me if you all call her next week. But do it, right? Because it's out there. Now, once again, my story about Alfredo. Alfredo, his family's from Old Mexico. He's in a workshop, right? And now he's working with Chris Iyer, Matt McConaughey. Woo! Right? So you can, if you want to do music, do you do music? If you want to do music, go for it. Put together some reels. You have a great studio here. Eric is a real good producer. Richard's experienced in the studio. You know, let them help you, guide you into your music. Okay? All right? Any other questions back here?
Yeah, I do want to ask you a question that came up during Jazz Methods a little bit. Now, I hope you don't mind if I mention this. You know, we talked about it earlier that you have a disability, and I know some of our students might have some disabilities, and you've been very successful even with this challenge. Could you talk about some of those challenges and how you worked through them?
Sure, and my disability, I don't feel sorry for myself at all because I know that some people have it a lot harder than myself with their disabilities, but mine basically is, I have like crazy ass dyslexia. I'm so dyslexic that I think I called Eric Mark about 5 times. I think I didn't ever, I know Richard better, but to do that, but I misspell my name. Every time I look at a computer screen, it's moving around. So when I go to navigate, the computer screen's moving around. My mouse is following this thing that's not happening, right? So I've had it for my whole life. And as I get older, I don't have good eyes. You know, so you have a combination of eyes and dyslexia. And once again, I've worked with a lot of blind singers. I've worked with a lot of different disabled people who have it harder than me. But I can tell you can rise above it. So, I mean, I do things like a lot of large font. I mean, Richard did this today for me because he realized I couldn't see the scores last night. So, you know, yeah, you can deal with almost anything. And I always think of like, you know, some people that grow up in abject poverty don't have the opportunity to go to school, even get through high school, let alone go to a great university. And I think the world, and once again, the famous people and the movers and shakers, so many of them are actually so cool and so understanding about any kind of challenge and disability because they really genuinely want to see people succeed. You know, so that's how I would answer that question. Just go for it and do whatever you need to overcome your disability where you need to. And you know, we all have to come to peace with challenges like that in one way or another. Okay?
We just have 1 minute left, and if you could talk about your first big break, if you don't mind. I think our students would really like that. Your first big break.
Yeah, you got to hit me with that one. Well, first big break. I think my first big break was being born into this country, having good parents, you know, because I've worked with a lot of people that are not born into this country and come from third world countries, and I've worked with a lot of people that had a lot of like broken homes and families that, you know, they were tough on them, you know, and it's harder to overcome. I had a mother that was like, you could do anything, right? And I was like an ugly kid with hand-me-down clothes, bad teeth, and bullies picking on me all the time. And my mother still like got me through that stuff, you know. So I think my first big break was my family. Career breaks, I think, was when I realized, hey, you know, I can actually do this, you know, and I started getting work. I mean, the first, when people start paying you to make music, and you're paid to make your own music, and they pay you, I think the first big break there was first time I got hired in a nightclub and somebody gave me money, and I was like, whoa, I can take this, you know. And then after a while, You realize opportunity comes often if you're paying attention and you're out there. Now I'm like, I think I said this to the last class, I wondered whether when I was 40, I was like, oh no, am I gonna get any more breaks? I'm 40. And a break came. And I was in my 50s. Oh no, am I gonna get any more breaks? And a break came. In my 60s. Oh no, I'm aged out, I'm old, I'm dying. Am I gonna get a break? And a break came. Now I'm 70, oh my God, stop the world. I had 3 offers yesterday. So, I mean, I think you just gotta just believe in yourself and really, really talk to yourself every day about being confident and doing what you wanna do and then reaching out, not being afraid. Just go for it, okay? That's my advice. Stick it to it.
Thank you, Mr. Bendiksen.